The man was pushing a wheelbarrow loaded with items, but as soon as he stepped inside his home, he tripped and fell. At first, he thought it was due to an uneven floor. Then he pressed on the tire a few times, only to realize it had been punctured by glass. It had pierced at least a few centimeters deep. He quickly pulled out the inner tube. Sure enough, there was a large tear. To save on repair costs, he thought of a solution. He took a piece of foam board, cutting it into strips with a knife. Then he poured a bit of gasoline into a cup, knowing that foam dissolves upon contact with gasoline. He used this method to create foam glue. As the foam and the gasoline dissolved completely, after a few hours, it settled into a strong adhesive. First, he removed the wheel rim, then used a grinding wheel to smooth out the cut area from the inside. This wore down a layer of rubber for better adhesive bonding, applying an even coat across the cut surface. To fill any tiny gaps, he added a patch for extra reinforcement. After removing the two wooden supports holding up the tire, the inner wall was repaired. Next, he wrapped transparent tape around the tire in layers to prevent deformation under pressure. He took out a can of expanding foam, shaking it well before use, found a gap in the tape to insert the nozzle, and filled the inside with foam to simulate an inner tube, inflating the tire until it reached the size of a normal wheel. He removed the tube and sealed the gap, letting it sit for about 6 hours, allowing the foam to harden and become very solid. Then he used a utility knife to cut the tape, peeling it off from the tire surface. He used a grinder to smooth out any foam protruding from the inner edge. Next, he brought over the wheel rim, cutting through the central metal axle. Using a pen, he marked a line around the rim, cutting the rim into 2 halves, also splitting the bearings into 2. He prepared steel plates of the same size to connect the rim halves with the bearings. For stability, he placed 1 plate on each side, designing it into a cross shape. Then he welded everything together, grinding away any flaws left behind. Next, he drilled holes on a drill press according to the marked points. Each steel plate had 2 holes. He placed 1 half of the rim back into the tire, then combined it with the other half, aligning all the holes perfectly, so bolts could be inserted to secure this new rim. After tightening all 8 bolts, the tire modification was complete. He reinstalled it onto the wheelbarrow frame. Now the cart was back to working normally, since the inside was filled with foam. Even if a nail punctured it, the tire wouldn't deflate or lose air. So what do you think of his creativity? Out of a full score of 10, how much would you give him?